Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to episode 8 of Women in Tech, an initiative by Unacademy, which aims to recognize and celebrate women in this challenging and ever-evolving field of technology. I am your host, Kritika Goyal, and I'm very excited to now call upon our guest for the evening, Ms. Vijeta Soni. She's a powerhouse of talent, I tell you, efficiency and expertise. Having worked at some of the most renowned organizations in India like Jio and Reliance at leadership roles, she has now moved on to her own promising startup, which is the Sciative Solutions Private Limited, a pioneer in price optimization solutions powered by AI and automation. So without any further ado, let's know more about her inspiring career journey. May we please have you on, Vijeta ma'am.
Hi, Kritika. How are you?
I'm good, ma'am. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you.
Great. So we'll jump right into our session for today. The first question, which is also our theme and the purpose of the series, is what exactly do you feel being a woman leader in tech?
So before I talk about the woman leader in tech, I would say being part of the tech fraternity is more important, right? So woman and leader comes next. I mean, woman leader in tech comes next. First is your being part of the tech fraternity is critical. As part of somebody who is part of the tech fraternity, I would say that every single person who has some tech inclination and is playing a role in changing the way the human race will be interacting with each other and the way things are changing around us with help of technology. One feeling that each and every one should have is sense of responsibility, because what we are building for tomorrow is something which will be shaped up by us and will be consumed by many more like us, which will be our next generation. So that sense of responsibility within every single person who is part of the tech fraternity, because you are the ones who are actually changing the world around us, right? So how is tech evolving is something that we need to have that sense of responsibility in how the tech world changes the real world, right? Being a woman leader in tech, I would clearly say that as a woman, you bring in a lot of emotion into the technology. How is this technology absorbed by humans is something that a woman leader needs to bring in. Driving this massive set of change, having that power to motivate people and make sure that the technology which you create or the applications and the solutions which you are bringing to the world are being consumed in the best possible manner is something very critical. At the same time, creating these great massive scale of technology tools, which are impacting lakhs and millions of people across the globe, that brings in a lot of power as a woman leader in tech. And again, with that power comes in a lot of responsibility. That sense of responsibility, whether you are just as part of the tech fraternity or if you are a leader in the fraternity, whether a woman or a man, anybody, that sense of responsibility is very critical. This is what I believe in.
Very well said, ma'am. And I completely agree. But based on what I've read, and also as you were talking about the evolution in the tech industry, the representation of women in this industry is still relatively low. Like it's only 33.7% as compared to men, which is 66.3%. So what do you feel is the reason behind this skepticism, around women in the world of tech? Because you've already been in this industry for a long time. So how was your journey like? What has the evolution been?
These percentages are very interesting percentages to read about. And also, as you experience this, it becomes even more fascinating. Before I even go to the percentage or the ratio of women versus men in the tech side, I would say that let's look into the complete corporate ecosystem. I was reading it somewhere that in India, around 38 to 40% of the women workforce, they join the corporate world. But when they start growing, right? So you're at your very junior level, you barely have, so you have around 40% of your people who's comprising of your young aspiring women leaders. When these women, they come to the mid level, right? Out of these around 38-40%, you barely have just 20% of the women who can get into the mid level of leadership. And by the time they come to the senior leadership roles, we only have around 11% representation of the women gender. That is a kind of the gender biases that start coming in. And while I'm talking about the complete corporate world, in the tech side, I would say this percentage of women entering into the workforce is also similar to what the usual Indian corporate ecosystem looks like, which is around 38%, 38 to 40%. However, majority of these women, when they get, the tech women, right? Out of these 40% of the people who are getting into the workforce, barely 12% stay back in the mid manager level. So when they are growing, barely 11 to 12% women are able to stay back. And when you look into the leadership level, barely 5% of the leaders in the Indian situation, in the Indian ecosystem, barely 5% of the women representation we see in the leadership roles in the tech fraternity. So, and that is something, it's not just in the book or in the research, but when you as a woman who is representing on the board or in meetings, meeting with the clients, meeting with the other people in the corporate side, you do see that unbiased coming. You do see that you are surrounded by men, but there are very few women leaders, especially in the tech side, who can grow to the leadership level. And that lacuna needs to be filled up very soon. So the more leadership by women we see in the tech world, we'll be able to pull in more, build more leaders within us, right? So that lacuna needs to be filled by women itself.
Absolutely, ma'am. I think that is a fact. But, as you mentioned that the managerial roles or the leadership roles for women or the representation there of women is rather low. So, I think that like somebody to look up to, a role model is kind of missing. So what was exactly your reason, or when did you exactly feel inclined towards technology? How did your journey begin?
My inclination towards technology came at a very early age. So my father is a pass out from IIT Bombay, and he's a scientist, has served the nation as he at Baba Atomic Research Center. So he's a scientist there, and he loves technology. And when I was very small, I remember as a small girl, he used to talk to me about, he used to narrate to me stories about women scientists, right? He used to talk about how women can do anything. There is a scientist, there is a girl who's a scientist who can make space rockets, who can make through her mind energy, can actually make cats fly and all that. So all of those beautiful stories, they started to shape up in my mind at a very early age. So that tech inclination started to come into me at a very early age. So, and getting access to the right computer systems, the right education, also brought in that inclination and that craving to know what else can happen through technology into life, and how you create a small code and then world around you starts changing, how you interpret some data and you start narrating stories out of that data, right? So those started to come to me very early in my life.
Right, ma'am. So as you mentioned about education and the importance of it, and even you have studied at IIM Bangalore and University of Houston. So how do you think that has shaped you in becoming the leader that you are today?
I would say that education system, whether it is in India or whether it is outside, exploring both of these systems together, what I would say is education is like so when you're into a university or in an institution, right, you're almost in an incubator, right? You're going through multiple experiences, you are learning through books, there are a lot of case studies and all of those things which are happening. But you're still learning about past, right? You're still learning about cases which have already happened, right? You're learning, right? So education system is like an incubator, gives you a lot of exposure. However, it is still a very protected environment. It makes you do those experimentation in a very protected shield. When you get into the real corporate world, that is where you start getting the new dimensions, where your decisions are not just a decision which is for a project thesis or maybe a report, right? But your decisions start impacting people. So whether you are creating maybe the next generation technology for how to people to for making sure that how people within organizations can communicate, how can you create an internal social media within the organization, right? So it's not just a project report, but there are so many dimensions that you have to take into consideration. What things can go wrong, what risk from a human side can come in, right? So those aspects are really groomed very well when you are applying your education into your real life, and that is where your strong foundation of education really helps you, because those concepts, those theories which you had previously read, you have learned, you have discussed in your maybe MBA classes or even in your engineering courses, right? That's when it starts helping you connect to those concepts. So these concepts are very important. Not sure how do everybody take those concepts, but these concepts are very important, because somewhere down the line in your life, you will be applying these concepts in some form or the other, right? And this is what I have learned, that when you are in a tech role or even a non-tech role, these education incubator systems that you get into, which are very protected environments, but when you are bringing these concepts back into the real world, you start falling in love with the problems which are around you. You get that confidence. This is what I believe in.
Wow, I think that, that is something that we must learn out of it. And even the point that you mentioned that, grooming in the real world, you have actually worked at some major corporate giants in the leadership roles. So how do you think your grooming, your evolution happened as a professional in these companies?
True. When I interview people now, and that's when I put myself into the position that where I used to earlier be in, just recent graduate from college and then giving interviews. I would say that, when you have worked in corporate giants, so every individual, whether somebody is getting himself or herself educated for a job or for an entrepreneurship role, right? Each individual has either can come with, a learning mindset or a performance mindset. So these are the two mindsets which humans are usually grooming themselves with. Majority of the students whom I see these days, they talk about the learning mindset. So when you, of course, you have to be very curious. You need to be having that learning mindset. You have to be constantly learning, right? But more important than that, there has to be a shift from a learning mindset to a performance mindset, because somebody who just has a learning mindset gets into a corporate role or gets into a task thinking that I'm going to learn from this task. Whatever the performance be, I don't care, right? In the end, when I started at level 0 or a level 1. And by the time I come out of this project or come out of this task, I will be at a level 7, level 8, or whatever it is compared to where you were. But is your level 7 or level 8 as good as level 10, which the project actually required, right? So a learning mindset person will only be getting into projects or corporate roles in any organization with a thought process that I'm going to learn from it. However, in any relationship, it is critical that there has to be an equal performance. So those people I have seen grow extremely fast in their career, who shift their mind from a learning mindset to a performance mindset. A person who's a performance mindset guy or a girl, right, ensures that the the success of the project or the success of the organization or the success of any task that they are doing is their responsibility, it's their ownership. And once you start working with that ownership mindset, which is driven through your performance, you want to make sure that by any amount of effort, any amount of learning that goes, you have to make sure that you are making that task come to a success level, right? And that is where the performance happens. And then learning becomes an outcome, or learning becomes like a byproduct of this whole journey. So people with performance mindsets are extreme fast growth people within organizations. And this is one trait when somebody starts looking at different professionals and why are some people growing at an exponential rate, you need to really see that that person has actually shifted from a learning mindset to a performance mindset. So this is how, I would like to sum up that how, how journey in corporate world, what kind of evolutionary processes that I have seen. So this is my learning, that how can you immediately shift from a learning mindset to a performance mindset for your growth trajectory, right? That is very critical.
I think this was definitely a Bible clause for all freshers and anybody who's about to kickstart their journey into the corporate world, because I feel anybody who's coming from college generally tends to have, as you mentioned, a learning mindset, and the transition is kind of tough. But that is the key again. So that is a great point, and I'm sure our audience here are jotting it down. So moving to the next question. We wanted to talk about your latest initiative, which is the Sciative Solutions. So I actually read somewhere that it means science plus creativity. So I would love if you could, elaborate about it, and where do you see it heading in the future? How did it incept? Anything?
Sure. So, as you very rightly researched about Sciative, the term is a very interesting term. Often I go to conferences and presentations, and people ask me, what is Sciative? What does it mean? So what we believe in is that any science, any theory. So as I said, your education, that science, the concept, the models, the frameworks, they are very important, right? However, they are absolutely useless, completely useless if you don't apply them, right? You need to apply them. And that application of science, those models, those concepts, those theories that you have learned into real life to solve problems, whether it is problem of environment, whether it is problem of society, or even businesses, right? That application, that which model, which theory, which concept is going to get applied onto what problem, right? That requires a creative mind, right? Wherein you have to have that creative thought process of debugging the problem, understanding the problem, and then finding the right solution which is going to work for that specific problem, right? So that Sciative is all about science and creativity together. Coming to what do we do at Sciative, right? We apply these deep learning algorithms and statistical models to solve a very radical problem which often organizations face, and they have been facing since the time trade started to happen, which is price, right? How should you price your products? How should you price your services? So pricing is a very critical science, which very few people understand. People often talk about price being, I have certain costs at which I have incurred to create my product. I'm going to add a profit percentage, then I'm going to make a sale happen, right? That is a very, very, very static way of pricing your products and services. If you have that, if you want to really grow very fast, it is important that you need to price based on what value are you providing with your service, with your product into the society or for that particular customer. Right. So a value. If anybody has used, I'm pretty sure there are multiple factors which get applied to make those price change. So these these factors, these pricing models are called as dynamic pricing, where the pricing is changing based on the various factors like supply, demand, what kind of customers do you have, how many customers are wanting to purchase, what kind of value additions are you providing, and even day of, what time of day you are in, so there are multiple factors which are present. And if a human starts to calculate them, it takes them hours, if not weeks together to make those computations. And if you have lakhs of products with you, how do you make these computations in the most automated manner, right? So we build small little robots which get attached to every single product. And these robots act like a human analyst, which is reading and learning about that product and creating right prices for that product for that given point of time. So that is what we do at Sciative. And we want to bring this transformational change of pricing within the Indian ecosystem and in the international ecosystem through the products that we create.
I think that sounds very, very interesting, ma'am. And I can totally see that, it is the future of the world. And I'm so glad that, you as a woman are representing it. So kudos to you and more power. We'll move on to the next one because, as you've already mentioned, Sciative is a great initiative as it sounds, and I'd love to know more about it. But at the same time, I want to know, what is your greatest achievement? I mean, you've had a great journey, and I'm sure each phase has brought something amazing to you. But if you have to call out that one thing, what would that be?
So I would call out my experiences. So let me call out two specific life-changing experiences which really helped me grow as an individual and as a professional. Right. One was in my professional career, specifically at Reliance Industries. Being one of the youngest women leaders of Reliance, and taking care of some very interesting areas which were tech driven in an organization, and making those available to lakhs of people across geographies, brought that immense amount of confidence, that you can actually do wonders. And when you really do stuff, when you really work with your technology in the right manner, you can impact lives positively. And that is what I really learned at a mega scale when I was at Reliance. So that really helped me groom myself as a professional in my confidence level to a very large extent. The next part would be at Sciative, specifically in 2019, when we came up with our tech product, which is called as Viaj.ai. So the bus industry, the luxury bus industry, intercity bus industry in India is, while it sounds very fancy that these are luxury buses, some very top players in the market are applying their buses in this, right, across different geographies. But there was a lack of technology in this area, especially in terms of artificial intelligence and pricing decision. So the tool that we built for this industry and the absorption of this tool across India went phenomenally well, right? Because it was so simple. Even some of our 8th grade pass out bus company owners are able to use our artificial intelligence powered tool for pricing with so much of ease. So it's almost as easy as using a WhatsApp, right? So pricing has become so easy for people, and that brings in a lot of lot of interest in me, that there is a lot of transformation which is required across different industries, and tech can really do that very well. And once the humans and tech get integrated well, you can transform the way people work, right? So that brings in a lot of confidence, a lot of sense of contribution back to the society is something which I really feel as part of the tech fraternity.
Absolutely, ma'am. I think I totally second that. Technology is making things so accessible. And I think somewhere or the other, it's also kind of helping inequality. And, with the example that you just gave, I think
Absolutely.
that is completely synonymous to that. So,
Correct.
yeah. So absolutely, like that sounds like an amazing achievement. But I'm so sure that, with all these achievements that you've had, there were also some major hardships and some challenges that you had to face and overcome to actually reach where you are right now. So any particular hardship that you remember that, really motivated you to do better?
Here I would bring in that woman angle again, because see, nature gives women a very beautiful capability of being a mother, right? And by being a mother, you are not just responsible for yourself anymore, but you are responsible for a new life that you have brought in.
Right.
Balancing this life and ensuring that you're being a great mother and also you're being a great team leader to your people, and working brilliantly well within your professional life is a dilemma which many women are going through, especially young women who are into an age where they have a baby, they're working. So balancing, so that I would say is a I would not call that as a hardship, but it is a challenge which needs to be owned, which needs to be loved. And as I always tell people, that I love to fall in love with the problem so that I can find out better solutions. So whenever challenges come, you just fall in love with that challenge, that you are able to find out amazing solutions to that, right? So so that hardship or that challenge of being a mother, at the same time being a leader together, and keeping a great balance between both of these is very critical, because you are raising a brilliant tech product. At the same time, you are raising a beautiful human being, and you want both of them to be perfect, right? So that is where that balancing is something which needs to be worked out very well. And that initially, when you're very new into that phase, it is a hardship, it is a challenge, but you just fall in love with it.
No doubt, ma'am. And honestly, I think it's so motivating and so inspiring to see how, women are able to juggle and multitask so many things with such efficiency. It's just, I feel we need more people around us to actually see more such situations and, such leadership qualities to actually ingrain some into us as well. So thank you for mentioning that. We will now move on to our next segment, which is the live question round. Which will be from the viewers. So I'll just take a couple of them. Okay. So we'll take this one. What inclined you to found a startup?
So, as I said, when you fall in love with problems, when you start observing, when you become curious and you want to fall in love with problems, that's when you want to create your solutions for those problems. My husband comes from the field of pricing, right? So he's an expert in pricing. Learning so much from him about what beautiful benefits can pricing do, how pricing can change behaviors of your customers, was very intriguing. And how can tech and this pricing can come together, how can they marry together to create scalable problems, to create scalable solution for this problem, which can be applied to every industry, intrigued me a lot, right? And how can we come together as a team and we can work on solving this problem, which industries, not just in India, but globally are facing, was one of the major motivations for us to start Sciative.
Right. So I'll take the next one. Okay, we can do this one. How to transition from a tech role to a managerial role?
Yes, that is very critical. See, often I have seen many young techies, especially in India, right? India is a mecca for tech, right? Everybody wants to get into the tech role. But I mean, if there are many tech people who are listening to this, you know this very well. Often people who are from tech struggle with communication. They have problems to they can write beautiful algorithms. I mean, they can code very well, but it is extremely important to communicate, right? So if somebody is really looking forward to grow higher up and start getting into that managerial role, so you can be an individual contributor and you can be a great coder, you can be kind of like a scientist within your organization leading the tech role. However, as a manager, you're not just responsible for building that product, but you're also responsible for the people who are part of your team. And these people have aspirations. They have emotions. They have all the things which a tech may not have, right? So shifting the gear from being a techie to a more humanitarian role, which is more into the managerial side. Having an empathetic communication built within your system, within yourself, is very important. So how do you communicate? I mean, and that does not mean that you have to be a great English orator. You don't have to be that. You just have to be a great human who can express their thoughts, express their motivation, express their vision to your team, and just make them come together. That's it. That is the only shift that you have to do. Start communicating, start talking about your heart to everyone.
Right. Okay, great. So we'll take another one. Okay. So this one is, with the number of startups that are coming in, do you feel that it will become stagnant after a while, like saturated? I feel they mean.
There are thousands of startups that come up annually, and again there are thousands of startups which shut down. And thanks to COVID, right? It has made this rate even faster, right? I would say this term startup has become more of a fashion these days. I mean, if you see from an Indian society point of view, we started to get into the jobs, right? Working jobs. After the Britishers came in, right? When the East India Company came in, we all were entrepreneurs, right? We all were entrepreneurs. In the end, it's about having business. Indians do have business mindset. I totally believe in that. Whatever region you come from, whether you're a Gujarati or a Marwadi or even from Andhra Pradesh, anywhere, we have that ingrained DNA of running a business. We understand money. We understand numbers, right? So it is easy for Indians to get into the business. However, it is also important for us to understand that in startups, it is not just about getting customers. It is about, often startups focus on burning money, burning their funding, and, trying to reach to as many customers as possible. Always remember that if you have great revenue sources, so just burning money is not important. Make sure that you are creating great revenue sources so that you never go in a financial crunch. Often, and that's what my other co-founder, Dr. Anshu, he often talks about, that we should bring in some model of pricing. How can startups start pricing so that we just don't start up, we start up profitably, right? So that intention is something that each startup owner, or especially a new startup owner, needs to start thinking about. It's not just about having that idea, but making sure that how you're going to make money with that idea. That's going to call for your sustainability.
Absolutely. That's very well pointed out. So we'll just take the last question for the day, which will be, okay, we can take this one. What has been your motivation throughout your journey, like a guiding light or just something that kept you going?
Problems always keep me going. If problems stop coming, Kritika, there is no fun in life, right? And there is no innovation that happens. When we listen to our customers, when we listen, whether you are in your corporate role or whether you are an entrepreneur, listening to your customer is very important, because your customer is the one who's facing the problem. The more you listen to your customer, the more problems you come across. It can be problems with your own product, right? I mean, if you listen to your customer, you can keep improving your product. So problems keep motivating me. I always love to talk to my customers, whosoever they are, right? And understanding what problems are they, what more can make their life more easier, right? What issues are they going through? So that keeps me going every single time.
It's lovely how we've moved from a resource first country to now an interaction first country. So that's great. We'll now head to the last segment of the day, which is a fun word association game where I will be mentioning some of your achievements, and you can tell me the story behind it, or probably, however you felt around it. So the first one will be Goldman Sachs 10K Women Entrepreneurs.
So this was a wonderful program. And thanks to Goldman Sachs for making this happen for 10,000, more than, now they are like multi-thousands of women entrepreneurs globally. But this is a great platform for women entrepreneurs to network with each other, to come together. Because see, what happens is entrepreneurship makes you sometimes feel alone, right? So when you're a professional, you have other women around you, or other professionals around you, not just women, but you have other professionals around you who are going through similar problems and issues. But when you're an entrepreneur, you don't happen to meet with a lot of other entrepreneurs. So the story about 10K Goldman Sachs is you get to meet so many more people who are like you, right? Who have that same amount of passion, who are going through same kind of problems. And that is what fascinates me. You make great bonds. You make great friendships for life, for sure.
Fab. Women for women always. So the next one that I'll be moving on to is the top 10 most promising startups of India by FICCI.
That was when both me and my co-founder, and along with the team, when we work, right, we build products and we fall in love with the problems and we just make products. We get so involved into making products that we forget about other stuff which usually startups should be thinking about, like participating in awards and all those things. But when you fall in love with the problem, you're a scientist, right? You just fall in love with it. You just create something beautiful. That's when Ficci, so the Level Next Award happened to us, because one of our friends, he talked about, this is the last day, do you want to really go for this award? And we were like, of course, let's just try it out. So we were, I think, so one of the last applicants into that award in 2019. And it just happened. I mean, all that we did was one night we sat together and we were like, let's just apply for it for the first time. It was the first award that we applied for, and we won. Wow. And in fact, there were thousands of growth stage startups who had applied for it. And we were the top 10 winners, and we were then mentored by PwC. So that was a lovely story. And we still remember those night outs that we did to make that happen.
That's amazing. I think if it's meant to happen, it does happen and find its own way. So that's a beautiful story. Moving on to the next one, the Turbo Start Founders Fellowship, where you got your first seed money.
Yeah. And this actually connects back to the Ficci award. I mean, the Level Next Award. we happened to meet with a very senior professional who was leading this whole effort of Level Next. He happened to, so in a couple of years, he happened to, so he knew us very well, what we do, because we had done this application, we had presented to him multiple times. When Turbo Start came in, and we met with him, and he said that, why don't you apply for Turbo Start, right? And we were like, okay, if you say so, we can just apply for it. So we applied for it, and it just worked out because when you know that you have a proven product with you, if you have that passion to make a change and difference, right? So the whole ecosystem comes together to make it happen for you, right? So that's how Level Next and the Turbo Start were very well. These stories are connected to us. They're very well connected to us, and we won the we won a brilliant fellowship from them and a great mentorship.
That's fabulous. I'm sure this is a story very, very close to your heart. So I'll move on to the next one. This is actually something that I found on your LinkedIn profile, and I thought it was quite interesting. So this was Money Heist, the learning workshop at Sciative Solutions. So what was this about?
So this was, I think so this was in 2020. Yeah, immediately after the lockdowns. So we always, so our office is in Bombay, and it's a beautiful office. So when we were all working together, a lot of when we are working, the night outs happen, and we play games. There are these game areas within our office. So it's a lot of fun environment. But then the pandemic happened, and we all started to work from home. And it was how to keep people engaged, right? How to make sure that, there is this one common thread that connects all of us. So we were just randomly talking to some of our people, and Money Heist was one series in Netflix that everybody had watched, right? We were like, this is good. This is great. How about we bring Money Heist and we bring in this engagement activity together? So we did this 2-hour-long engagement activity where it was a heist, and we had different roles to play within that heist game, and it was a very fun activity. And so this is how we engaged ourselves. I mean, we had no clue how to make this engagement happen in a pandemic situation where there is so much of depression outside, and how to make it work. So Money Heist came to our rescue that time.
I'm sure this was very, very engaging. Like, it sounds a lot of fun. So, okay, so the last one, which is LinkedIn learning story at Reliance. So this also I found on LinkedIn, and if you could elaborate a little about it.
So as part of my role at Reliance, which was the VP for Learning Technologies and Innovations, one of the initiatives was to have a continuous learning culture get into the organization, and LinkedIn Learning as a source, as a tool for knowledge, right? So because there is a concept called as micro learning nuggets, right? So every LinkedIn Learning video is not more than 3.5-4 minutes long, right? So there was this mega collaboration which happened where at Reliance we inculcated LinkedIn Learning as a product in the organization. But now, I mean, I always tell people that bringing a product or creating a tech product is one thing, but making people do it, making people use it is a next level altogether, right? So this LinkedIn Learning, the case study, I think, so what you have seen is the case study which was released by LinkedIn Learning. It was one of the most successful launch of LinkedIn Learning, where close to 5 lakh people across Reliance started to use LinkedIn Learning, and not just 1 day or 2 days. For months, there was an extensive use of LinkedIn Learning within Reliance Industries, and the launch was a mega launch, one of the major launches that we did. So that is where the tech and the managerial part that comes together, which, I mean, the question which you asked, this was a great case study for that.
I'm sure. I think you could be a case study in your own self. So, wow, thank you so much, ma'am. This was such an insightful session, and I'm sure people are really, really inspired right now. Like they will have a lot of valuable information to take back with them. But we'll just have one more concluding question to wrap up the session on a food for thought note. So, what is your advice to young professionals or college going students who are just about to kickstart their professional life?
I would reiterate one point which I mentioned earlier was come out of your learning mindset. Yeah, I'm just here to learn, right? Come out of that totally and get into a performance mindset. The sooner you do it, better it would be for your career. So shift from learning to performance. Secondly, be very curious, right? Ask questions. I mean, it becomes difficult for managers if their people don't ask questions. Either they understand everything or they don't understand anything. Right? So be curious. Yeah, and be curious and ask a lot of questions. It's absolutely great. And this is how you're going to be, able to not just learn, but able to perform better. Right. And third most important part is make a mentor, right? Have a mentor for you, because as you are growing in your career, it's not that you have to have a constant mentor, the same mentor for ages. No. With every stage of your life, your mentor would change. Have this mentor like a sounding board, right? And you should, and every single individual, whether as a professional, a new professional, fresh from college to corporate, or even in college, right? Start creating a mentor model for yourself. Read about what does mentorship mean. How can you become a great mentee? Because just having a mentor is not the end point. You should be a good mentee so that your mentor can help you out well.
Right.
So performance mindset, be curious, have a mentor, and then you are pretty much set to take care of multiple things in your life.
Perfect. I think that was perfectly articulated. And if that didn't motivate you, I don't know what will. So thank you so much, ma'am, for being on the 8 live session of Women in Tech. I am sure you've inspired many, many women and people in general to take the high road with your journey and experiences. I am personally so motivated. Thank you so much for being here. We are very, very grateful, and all the very best for your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kritika. Thanks a lot for having me. I hope I was able to put in my 2 cents into the discussion, and it was lovely to be here. Okay.
Perfect. I think
Thank
the
you.
pleasure is all ours. Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.